All right. All right, let's get into it. I listened to yet another video today of a broadcast of a Caucasian man who called in with the same old argument. Black Americans are only 13% of the United States, yet they commit over 50% or 50% of the crime. And long story short, that argument was shot down by pointing out that black Americans are over policed. It's not about black Americans committing 50% of the crime. You have to look at the fact that black Americans are over policed, especially compared to white Americans. It's like night and day. So, of course, if cops spend their whole shift in black communities, all of their arrests are going to be black people, or mostly black people. If the law enforcement officers, if these police departments around the country are flooded with white supremacists, that tells you right there they are going to target black Americans. But aside from that, I don't even like to point that out. I don't even like to point out the fact that black Americans are over policed, because it's hard to show it. It's hard to prove it. It's hard to demonstrate it. It's hard to provide evidence for it, but we know it happens. I want to bring people's attention to black Americans' actual percentage city by city. And I'm going to focus, like I did before, on the largest cities in the country, because that is where 85% of the American population lives. Most Americans live in cities, larger cities. So, I saved everybody the trouble. I enhanced the size of the screen, and I want y'all to pay attention to one column. That is this column right here. Right here. This column represents what percentage of the city is black. So, in other words, for example, South Fulton, Georgia, has the highest percentage of black people. South Fulton, Georgia is 89% black. 89.79% black. A lot of people mention Detroit as the blackest city in the United States. It's not. South Fulton is number one. Jackson, Mississippi, where my granddad is from, Jackson, Mississippi, is number two. It is 78% black, 78.55% black, Jackson, Mississippi. And as we go through this, I want y'all to tell me, how is it possible for 13% of the country to make up such a large percentage of so many cities? Especially when we look at the fact that 85% of Americans live in these large cities. We're looking at 85% of the United States population right now on your screen. Let's break this down. Those of you who got numbers phobia and you get anxiety and get confused with numbers, you're just going to have to work through this. You're going to have to pay attention to this video. pay attention to this video. Let me ask y'all again. How is it possible for 13% of the United States to make up such a large percentage of so many cities? A large percentage of the majority of the cities in the United States. People, it's not possible. Based on the statistics available to us, we do not make up 13% of this country. Now, look at this chart right here. When you see the ones in blue, those are the cities that are mostly black. Yellow, mostly white. This light green, it says majority minority with no dominant group. And I don't know what they're talking about there, because these cities, most of these cities are also mostly black. We're going to get to it. The ones in orange, mostly Hispanic. And sort of purple, mostly Asian. Now, I filtered it so that the cities that are mostly black are at the very top. And then it scales downward. But as you can see, how is it possible for 13% of the United States population to make up the majority of these many cities that you see on your screen here? South Fulton, Jackson, Detroit, Michigan, Birmingham, Alabama, excuse me, Miami Gardens, Florida, Memphis, Tennessee. These are major cities. Birmingham, Memphis, Jackson, Detroit, Montgomery, Alabama, mostly black. Baltimore, Maryland, and this is a northern city. Baltimore is not even a southern city. Neither is Detroit. When you talk about some of the blackest cities in the country, remember, they're not all southern cities. There's no way we could be 13% of this population. Shreveport, Louisiana, Flint, Michigan, all cities that are mostly black. Augusta, Georgia, Macon, Georgia, New Orleans, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Portsmouth, and Mobile, Alabama. Now remember, the ones in green, we're about to go on the green cities now. They say majority minority with no dominant group. But look at this. Savannah, Georgia, for example, 48% black, 36% white. That looks like a majority black city to me. What do you mean, majority minority with no dominant group? Blacks make up the largest percentage of Savannah, Georgia at 48.62%. The next largest group is white at 36.60%. Those of you down in Savannah, Georgia, you let me know. You let me know if it feels like blacks make up 48% of the city. Hampton, Virginia, same way. 48% black, 36% white. So these in green are still cities that are majority, the largest demographic, are black. How is that possible if we're 13% of the population? It's not possible, and we're not 13% of the population. It's more like 50-50. Even here in my home state of Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, and I used to live in Cleveland. I lived there for about 6 months. 47% black, 32% white. I can vouch for Cleveland. It looks like it's mostly black. All right? Newark, New Jersey. I've never been to Newark, but we all know about Newark. 47% black. Wow, what, 8% white? and I think 36% Hispanic. Yep, 36% Hispanic for Newark, New Jersey. And I knew their Hispanic population was high because there's a lot of Puerto Ricans out there. But still, they do not make up more than the blacks. Where is it? Right here. Blacks 47%, Hispanics 36%. So these ones in green, they may as well be in blue. These cities are mostly black. Cleveland, Ohio, Beaumont, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, as we all know, Lake Charles, Louisiana, Columbus, Georgia. Cities mostly black, 45% black, 38% white. Like, why wouldn't you include these cities as being majority black? Because they are. They clearly are. How can 13% of the United States population make up such a large percentage of so many cities? We're still with 41%. Fayette, North Carolina, Suffolk, Virginia. Look at all these cities. Tuscaloosa, where my family from. My family on my grandmother's side is from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. 41% black. They say it's 47% white. They say it's more whites than blacks in Tuscaloosa. Let me tell you, when you go to Tuscaloosa, it don't look like it. Those of you down there in Tuscaloosa, you let me know. What does the city feel like? Huh? More cities in Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio. I can vouch for Dayton. I can vouch for Cincinnati. Those cities feel like the majority of the people are black. Like, as you go through the city, you see more black people in Dayton and in Cincinnati. But they're saying it's 40% black, 46% white. I even think some of these statistics are off. But remember, black Americans, we don't like to fill out those census forms. So we're just not represented in the statistics really at all. And this is still ridiculous. Now, we're getting lower and lower on this list. We're at cities like Buffalo, New York, where they're telling us it's 35% black, 39% white. Again, how can 13% of the country's population be putting up these kinds of numbers? You see where my cursor is? This column right here. 35, 35, 35, 37, 38, 40% of the city is black. There's no way, it's impossible for us to be overrepresented in so many cities and make up 13% of this country's population. Impossible. Impossible. Look at it. Look at the list. We still on here. Let me make sure I'm on the right screen here. Because this upsets me. I get sick of people talking about crime statistics and pointing out the myth that we make up 13% of this country. One of the biggest myths, lies going around right now. Now we're into the yellow. Now they say that those in yellow are cities that are mostly white, majority white are in yellow. I want you who live in these cities that's in yellow, you tell me, does these cities that you live in, that maybe you're even from, do they feel like there's mostly white? Because I'm telling you now, Columbus, Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, feels more like 50-50. They seem more like 50-50. They're telling us that Columbus, Ohio is 28% black and 51% white. Toledo, 28% white or black and 55% white. I don't believe that. And I'm speaking as a person who's lived in both of these cities. I'm currently in a suburb of Toledo, but I used to live in the city of Toledo. I travel into the city of Toledo often, and I used to live in Columbus, Ohio. I was a window cleaner in Columbus, Ohio. I worked for Deaden's Window Cleaning. At that time, it was called Deaden's Window Cleaning in the early 2000s, around 2000, 2001, 2002. I was on a building, hanging off a building, side of a building, off a high rise, when the Twin Towers were hit. My people in Peoria, Illinois, does that city seem like it's 27% black and 53% white? I bet it don't. Shout out to my people in those small towns like Benton Harbor, Michigan. Benton Harbor, Michigan. When all these small cities around the country that are like 50-50 or mostly black. Sandusky, Ohio. I believe Cedar Point is up there. Heavy black population. They're not even on this list. I believe they make up a larger percentage than what's actually reported. Gary, Indiana. Some of you know about Gary. That's where Michael Jackson is from. It's more like a suburb of Chicago. It seems mostly black. Roanoke, Virginia, they're saying mostly white. Kansas City, mostly white. Again, those of you in these cities, does it feel like you're 25% of the city? Or does Kansas City feel more like 50% black and 50% white? Because I'm willing to bet that many of these cities in yellow are more like 50-50. Raleigh, North Carolina, y'all let me know. Nashville, Tennessee. Just look at the list here. All those in the yellow, they're saying mostly white people. And I question all of it. Dallas, Texas, they're saying it's 22% black and 28% white. Those of you in Dallas, that's a major city here in the United States. Does it feel that way? Or does it feel more like 50-50? Because I know Dallas has a heavy black American population. Orlando, Florida, same thing. Does it feel that way? They're saying that it's 22% black. Orlando, Florida. I don't know about that. I don't know about a lot of these cities. Kansas City, I don't know about that. Oakland, they're saying Oakland is 20% black. Huh? Y'all in the chat room, where y'all from? Where y'all from? Go ahead and post where you from. We'll look up your city. We'll look up your city live. You let me know if y'all's statistics are accurate. They're saying Oakland is 20% black. I don't know about that. New York City. Let's deal with the biggest city in the United States. Those of you in NYC, does it feel like it's only 20% black? Could blacks make up such a large percentage of the large black communities in New York City if they were only 13% black? Those like Queens, what is it where Bedford-Stuyvesant, There's a lot of black communities, large black communities in New York City. Do you think y'all could make up those communities? Do you think you could be represented in those large communities if you were only 20% of the city? I don't know. Y'all let me know. I was only in New York City once, and that was a very long time ago. I believe it was like 1995. No, around 92, something like that. 93. Long time ago. But yeah, I'm not buying it, people. Those cities down here now, are they saying that 18%? I'm still saying, how can we make up 18%, 19% of these cities? We're going to the smaller cities now. We're dealing with smaller cities now. How is that possible for only 13% of the population to make up even this large percentage of so many cities? 16%, 15%, I'm not buying it. Not buying it. So yeah, also, so many lies out in the world. Shout out to Dennis Sperling, who reminded me of this. I actually read it before. But you know how they like to call black people lazy. And I've always told y'all better stop using statistics that apply for black women. Y'all better stop applying them to the entire black population. That's just what it is. You might find some information about black women that would lead you to call them lazy, but you ain't seen no information like that on us. In fact, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, as recently as the fourth quarter of 2024, just last year, black men averaged 43 hours per week. And black men are said to work more hours than all other demographics in this country. Those of you who like to talk about black men as being lazy, please explain this. Explain this. How do we average more hours per week? And let me tell you something else. Let me go ahead and share with you all my personal schedule. I average 55 to 60 hours a week. People who follow me closely know this. I work between 55 and 60 hours every week, and I get weekends off. You know what that means? I cram all those hours in 5 days. I've been doing this for all this year and about the fourth quarter of last year. And I'm going to be working like this all the rest of this year. And everybody that I work with average more than 43 hours per week. I'm going to even question this. Just understand, when you see statistics like this, understand that there are several black men that work far more than 43 hours. That's just the average. 43 is just the average. So yeah, don't nothing feel better than busting up these myths. And, y'all need to do this research yourselves whenever you get a chance. I always enjoy diving into these statistics. Play around with the filters. Let me see here. Because right now I got it filtered for the percentage. Let me deactivate that. And let's filter it by what is this? Yeah. Yeah, that don't even work. What in the world? Wait a minute. Let's see here. No, that's kind of whack. But yeah, explain it to me. I don't understand. And there's a lot of people who believe this. They're not just white. A lot of black people believe this as well. And the reason why, and this is like the third video I've made on this, and the reason why I do this is because of how often this statistic is thrown out there. If we're going to throw a statistic out there and we're going to rely on a statistic for so many things that we try to argue, we better make sure that statistic is accurate. And people are always throwing that stat around. Blacks only 13%. You're only 13%. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. I refuse to accept that going forward. I've been rejected that for a long time. We are not 13% of this country. You let me know what you think.